Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here, and welcome back to what is going to be the final episode of this mini series that I've done, which has been my first foray into the YouTube world of producing videos. At this moment in time, I still believe that my production skills are probably better than my delivery skills, but that's something we'll be working on in the future. So this episode is going to end effectively what I called fascist tactics. So this is going to be an episode on the tools to counter this extremism and fascism we're seeing today in modern politics. Moving forward after this, I'm currently working on a few other projects. But I think I'm going to sort of move from this format of deep dives into more current stuff, maybe sort of like hot takes, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, do a live stream, half an hour maybe, and just sort of look at, Twitter, the nonsense that Elon Musk is coming up with, more on a daily basis than a look back in history, effectively, like I have done in this previous series. I just think this I'm going to run out of stuff to do if I keep doing this sort of deep dive stuff. I sort of covered just about everything that I can think of in this format. So yeah, going forward, I think we'll do sort of more current, up to date, daily sort of stuff, or twice daily. Oh, sorry, every 2 days, or every 2 or 3 days. All right, so let's finish off with this series with critical thinking, intellectual honesty, and objectivity. And here we go. So, in a world overwhelmed by misinformation, polarization, and growing extremism, critical thinking, intellectual honesty, and objectivity are more important than ever. These tools help us navigate complex realities and stand firm against destructive ideologies like extremism and fascism. Right, so the overview of today's topics: defining critical thinking, intellectual honesty, and objectivity, exploring their distinctions and interconnections, and discussing how these tools can address modern societal changes. And also the real world consequences of ignoring these tools, the rise in authoritarian regimes fueled by unchecked propaganda, something which we've spoken about in previous episodes, spread of conspiracy theories that erode societal trust, also discussed in previous episodes. Go and have a look back if you haven't seen them. And increased division and polarization, undermining democracy. All right, so critical thinking. Definition of critical thinking is the disciplined process of actively and skillfully analyzing, evaluating, and synthesizing information gathered from observation, experience, reflection, or communication. Core elements: clarity, ensuring understanding of the issue, for example, when discussing climate change, defining key terms like global warming or carbon footprint prevents confusion. Accuracy, verifying facts and evidence, for example, checking the source of a viral statistic to ensure it's backed by credible research. Relevance, distinguishing between relevant and irrelevant information, for instance, focusing on current economic data when discussing inflation trends rather than unrelated historical events. Excuse me. Logical reasoning, drawing conclusions based on sound premises, for example, analyzing election results based on verified voting data rather than hearsay. Practical applications: analyzing a polarizing social media post, fact check the claims with reputable sources, identify logical fallacies like ad hominem attacks or false dilemmas, and consider the broader context before forming an opinion. So out there in this world of disinformation, the real information does exist. You just got to know where to look for it properly. The objective, which we're coming to, the objective sources, they are out there. They do exist, and you can find the actual truth. You just got, unfortunately, you've got to look a little bit harder for it these days. Challenges in critical thinking. Cognitive biases, for example, confirmation bias, which we discussed in the previous episode, I believe it was, leads people to accept information that aligns with their pre-existing beliefs, ignoring evidence to the contrary. Emotional reasoning, making decisions based on feelings rather than facts, such as supporting a policy purely because it feels right. Another thing, feelings are not a reliable pathway to truth. That always keep that in mind. Just because something feels right doesn't mean it is right. Over-reliance on authority, blindly accepting expert opinions without questioning their validity, such as assuming a celebrity endorsement guarantees truth. It does not. Combating extremism and fascism with critical thinking. Critical thinking equips individuals to discern propaganda, question extreme ideologies, and resist groupthink. For example, deconstructing extremist rhetoric, such as claims that a particular group is solely responsible for societal problems by examining the evidence and logical consistency. Real-world consequences of neglecting critical thinking. Increased susceptibility to misinformation, leading to harmful decisions like vaccine hesitancy, erosion of democratic processes when voters fail to scrutinize political platforms. All right, so moving on to intellectual honesty. The definition of intellectual honesty involves a commitment to truth, regardless of personal biases, preferences, or consequences. It demands sincerity in seeking knowledge and fairness in presenting ideas. The difference between intellectual honesty and intellectual dishonesty, which we spoke about intellectual dishonesty in last week's episode, I believe it was. Intellectual honesty, acknowledging when you're wrong, giving credit to others, and avoiding distortion of facts. For example, admitting a calculation error in a budget proposal. Intellectual dishonesty, cherry-picking evidence, misrepresenting data, ignoring contradictory evidence to protect one's beliefs. For example, selectively presenting only positive study results to support a flawed medical treatment. The importance of intellectual honesty builds trust in discussions. For example, a journalist admitting bias in reporting strengthens their credibility, promotes meaningful dialogue and collaborations. For instance, researchers openly sharing data and methodologies foster innovation. Practical strategies. Admit mistakes and update beliefs when presented with new evidence. For example, acknowledging a flawed assumption in a business forecast and adjusting strategies accordingly. Avoid winning debates at the cost of truth. For instance, prioritizing understanding over scoring points in political debates. Sort of one of my favorite anecdotes regarding winning debates. A good few years ago now, I watched a YouTube channel called crikey, they ate themselves. The Non Sequitur show. They effectively ate themselves from the inside out and destroyed themselves. But they used to do a lot of flat Earth debates. I think there was one debate. I can't quite remember all the details, but there was one debate where the flat earther actually won the debate and went running off, told all his mates that he won the debate, therefore the earth was flat. Brilliant. So yeah, winning a debate doesn't mean that you're right? Anyway, okay. Using credible sources and double check claims. Use credible sources and double check claims. For example, verifying data from multiple peer-reviewed studies before citing it. Combating extremism and fascism. Using intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty counters extremist narratives by exposing lies, exaggerations, and misrepresentations. For example, challenging false historical claims used to justify nationalist agendas, such as rewriting history to glorify harmful regimes. Real-world consequences. Loss of trust in institutions when dishonesty is uncovered, such as falsifying scientific studies. Strengthening extremist ideologies when dishonesty goes unchallenged. Part 3, objectivity. Definition of objectivity is the practice of evaluating information without personal feelings, prejudices, or biases, relying solely on facts and logic. The difference between objectivity and subjectivity. Objectivity is based on factual evidence and universally applicable principles. For example, assessing a legal case based on laws and evidence rather than emotions. Subjectivity influenced by personal experiences, emotions, and individual perspectives. For example, forming opinions about art or music based on personal tastes. I came up with an example once to try and make it easier for people to understand the difference between the two. So, you and I, we both go to a friend's birthday party, and I have a great time. I see people I know, have a few drinks, great party. You, on the other hand, weren't feeling well, feeling ill, didn't have a great time at all, felt, like totally off. That is subjectivity. The objective part of that story is that we both went to the same party. That's an objective fact. The subjective fact is that I had a great time. That's my subjective fact for the night. And you had a bad time, really. And that's your subjective fact. So, yes, there are subjective facts are facts. You did have a bad night. I can't dispute that. I don't want to dispute that. If you tell me you had a bad night, you had a bad night. But that is a subjective approach to that evening, whereas the objective fact is we both went to the same party. I just had a good time. You had a bad time. All right. Achieving objectivity. Be aware of your own biases and actively counteract them. For instance, recognizing and adjusting political bias when analyzing news articles. Evaluate multiple perspectives before forming conclusions. For example, reading viewpoints from across the political spectrum when researching a policy issue. Focus on evidence, not opinions. For instance, using statistical data to assess economic performance rather than relying on anecdotal claims. Challenges to objectivity, emotional attachment to ideas, such as refusing to accept criticism of a favored leader. Cultural and societal influences, such as ingrained stereotypes shaping opinions. And combating, using objectivity to combat extremism and fascism. Objectivity helps individuals see through the emotional manipulation and biased narratives that extremism and fascism often rely on. For example, evaluating inflammatory political rhetoric by identifying unsupported claims and logical fallacies, and real-world consequences of lacking in objectivity, polarization and division fueled by emotional and biased narratives, injustice in legal and social systems due to prejudiced decision making, like a lot of what the U.S. Supreme Court the last year have effectively done regarding Donald Trump. A lot of Christian nationalist biases going on there. Right, integrating these tools, the synergy between the three tools. Critical thinking identifies flaws in reasoning. Intellectual honesty ensures a sincere search for truth, and objectivity provides a balanced, unbiased foundation. So, practical exercises. Practice analyzing news articles for bias. For example, identifying loaded language and fact-checking claims. Engage in debates with an emphasis on fair reasoning. For example, structuring arguments based on evidence rather than personal attacks. Reflect on personal biases and work to counter them. For example, keeping a journal of assumptions and evaluating their validity over time. A real-world impact. Community workshops, fostering discussions on misinformation, teaching participants to critically evaluate sources and arguments, and educational programs that train students to spot propaganda techniques, promoting resilience against extremist ideologies. All right, and then let's just conclude with a recap. Critical thinking, intellectual honesty, and objectivity are essential tools in our fight against extremism and fascism. They empower us to question, understand, and stand for truth. And a call to action: be encouraged to practice these tools in daily life, for example, committing to verify news stories before sharing them. It is important, it is important to educate others about these concepts. For instance, starting discussions about media literacy in schools and workplaces. And don't burn books, please. Together we can build a more informed, fair, and just society. And then, just in closing, thanks for joining me again. Stay curious, stay honest, and stay objective. Together we can make a difference, and we will make a difference. It's going to take time, and it's a bit of a fight, but be assured that you will be on the right side of history, because intellectual honesty always wins. Just unfortunately, there's a dark side we have to fight against. Okay, guys. I'm going to be spending some time on Wednesday. This is coming out on a Wednesday, but later on Wednesday evening, I'm going to be doing a live stream. It's just a test with my nephew. I'm going to get everything sorted out so that I can start doing these live streams in the future, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video. So hopefully I'll see you soon. I will, I think going forward, I will probably, before any live stream, I'll probably put a note on the channel somewhere. I think you can do that under the community tab. And then I'll upload the live stream thumbnail, maybe a couple of hours before any live stream. But yep, I'm still struggling to get subscribers. If you're watching this, please subscribe. It would really help me out. Please like and please comment. And if you're keen to be involved in the channel in any way, sort of a mod, let me know. If you maybe also a new budding channel that needs trying to get off the ground, and you want to do a collab of sorts, let me know in the comments. That'll be great. All right, cool. Take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.